Welcome to Unfinished Business. I'm your host, Kimberly Griggs, and today I am joined by Alicia Perez, who is a Supreme Court certified civil law mediator and a practicing attorney with 12 years of civil law litigation experience. And she has a passion for conflict resolution. And welcome to the show, Alicia. I want to thank you for visiting with me today.
No, thank you. I'm very excited. You talked to me about your podcast. I'm feel very honored to be your first guest.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Well, I hear congratulations is in order also, because you have just recently been appointed a position on the Florida State Bar. Tell us about that.
Yes. The Florida bar, for any Florida attorneys out there, we all know that we have a mandatory Florida bar dues. So as a part of it, there's so many different sections that the Florida bar offers to different groups of people. So there is the solo and small firm, there's the alternative dispute resolution section, trial lawyers, all of that stuff. But on the overarching thing is that the Florida Bar has independent committees as well. Some of them that plan the annual bar convention that's happening next month. And they separate them. One of them is the Florida Bar Journal and editorial board. And so I put in my name to try to see if I could get on that because my background is journalism and communications undergrad. And I have been doing a lot of the writing and marketing stuff and even designing with my business as well as with another section of the Florida Bar. And they appointed me. So I'm really excited. I really won't know exactly what I'm doing till next month because it's the first meeting at the annual bar convention. So I'm really excited because it's the biggest publication for the Florida Bar.
Yes, and what do you hope to, what inspired you to do so, and what do you hope to accomplish with that?
Honestly, I've read the Florida Bar Journal before. It is pretty academic. It has some really great articles about changes in the law and everything like that. My hope is to just kind of bring my perspective, my background from being Peruvian and Cuban, from being bilingual, and kind of bring awareness to other areas. Because, like you said, alternative dispute resolution, or also known as conflict resolution, is something that people are just starting to pay attention to. And so it'd be really nice to get a bit more awareness of that happening. And so I'm really excited to do that. Plus, there's a little design in there, and I love designing. Doing a lot of the marketing myself is kind of tap back into my creativity.
That's excellent. Well, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Well, Alicia, I'm really excited to share this conversation because I think the work that you do is very important. I know that a lot of people that I have conversations with feel probably misunderstood more so than ever before. It seems like no matter if it's a business conversation or even personal, it feels like there's just a misunderstanding. People aren't conveying what they hope to convey, and it's being received very differently. And a lot of times that can be the source of conflict is being misunderstood. And I don't know that conflict resolution is something that we pay a lot of attention to. I don't think there's an opportunity for us to learn some of the things and skills that you have experience in dealing with. So I'm very excited to hear your perspective. And I'm really curious just to learn a little bit more. Why do you think that conflict is so challenging for so many people? And why do you think that people have a hard time finding common ground today?
I think conflict is something that is almost rampant within our society and continues to increase. I think it boils down to, I think, a couple of things. There's fear and a lot of instant reaction. So when somebody comes at you, so to speak, and you say something they disagree with you, it may not come from, I understand where you're coming from, but this is my perspective. Let's talk about that and kind of figure out where the common areas are. That doesn't happen. I think the normal pace in a conversation, whether it's friend, family, coworker, anybody really, is if you disagree with them, you're almost like, how could they say that? And it's like straight anger, which then creates conflict. But I think that it's almost a mask. So I think the reason that we have conflict increasing in our everyday lives is there's a lot of pride, fear, and almost ego in there because you refuse to acknowledge that people are entitled to their own opinions. You refuse to acknowledge that you are to treat others the same way you would want to be treated, and that's with love and respect. Because that's what makes our country great, is the diverse opinions that we all have. And we know in this political climate that's incredibly hard to do. That's a daily practice even for myself.
Yes. And in your opinion, what is your personal definition of conflict resolution?
My personal definition of conflict resolution is bringing parties of any kind with any type of conflict, um, and really just sitting down and giving an opportunity for people to be heard. I think oftentimes what I've learned doing this is that conflict resolution isn't actually finding the agreement. It's giving people an opportunity to be heard and really listened to. Because half the time, conflict resolution, I can't say I have 100% settlement rate. I would love that. But there are often times that we get in there and I'm pulling stuff out of people, and they love the fact that they are being heard for the first time, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a contract, anything that people enter in the legal system or even outside of the legal system. There's an emotional aspect to it. So I think that's a huge part of conflict resolution, is giving those people an opportunity to be heard and hopefully resolve that conflict into something that they may be unhappily happy about, but that they can finally close the chapter on.
I love the way you said that. Happily happy
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me your journey, your personal journey of how you discovered mediation and how why you became so passionate about it.
So I went to law school here in Central Florida at Florida A&M College of Law. I was UF undergrad, go Gators. And when I went into law school, my biggest thing was I really wanted to be a prosecutor. I grew up with Law and Order. I still watch to this day, even I think as this morning I was watching SVU. I'm rewatching the whole 20 something seasons that are there. But I always loved and was passionate about wanting to help others. There's a lot in my background that kind of has led me down that path. And I went into the state attorney's office right out of law school in 2011 and kind of rose through the ranks and learned a lot, did a lot of trials, helped a lot of people, and ended my time in the special victims unit, which was incredibly rewarding. I loved my time there. I was living the SVU dream. And right after that, I lost my job. And the rug got pulled out from under me. My whole purpose for so I saw thought was my purpose was pulled out. And it was almost like a 360 view of like, hey, you really need to figure out. I'm a person of faith, so it was one of those things where it's like shaking somebody, being like, are you listening? I need you to focus on the bigger picture. You are not just a prosecutor, you are meant to do something more. And so with that, I moved into civil law. um, and I did civil law for a little bit. I mean, I had a lot of litigation experience, so I was able to seamlessly transition into doing insurance disputes, also known as first party property claims. Did that for several years, ran a team, got leadership experience in that, then moved into another firm doing community association law. And same thing, built up a team, ran a litigation department, all of that. But I can tell you, the minute I left the state attorney's office, even if it was under bad circumstances, there was never the same amount of passion. So I was always on the hunt for passion and purpose. And oddly enough, I was having conversations with friends and family members much, much wiser and seasoned than me, who were also attorneys. And they had this mentality of basically telling you your passions come outside of your job. You can have your passions in your hobbies. If you love to travel, I love to travel. If you travel, you do all these things. That's where your passions come in. You go to work to make the money. And I remember debating with them and saying, I disagree. I disagree. I believe that I should be just as passionate about my job and the things that I do as I am outside of my job. And so I started really thinking about how can I do more good? how can I go back to the purpose that I really loved at the state attorney's office, which was to do good, to do better. And my business partner and best friend, she and I were talking about it, and she was on a similar journey as me. Um, However, she had kind of just started in civil law, and she was like, I don't like this. We had talked about running a law firm, but there's so many law firms in the state of Florida. We didn't want to just be another law firm. What could we do that would be still in the law, but different? And then we started researching mediations. And I had been in participating in so many mediations before, had great relationships with all of my mediators. They were fantastic people. And as I started thinking about it, I'm like, I could do all these different areas of law, find passions, find a niche, even go back to my special victims ways on the civil side and help those victims and find and do good. And so we wanted to become law adjacent. And so we decided to start our first all women minority owned mediation firm, got certified. We had the plan in place. She did all the heavy lifting to get us started, and I finished up my time at my previous law firm, said my goodbyes, my tearful goodbyes, because I was going to miss them. They're great people, and took this leap of faith on myself, saying, I think that we have something here, and I think that we can do good and feel happy and not feel like I'm just going to the job and clocking in and clocking out. So that's the long-winded version of why I'm here today.
I love that. I love that story of taking something, a skill that you have been developing and pieces that you like, and then morphing it into something with a greater purpose. And I love your
Exactly.
stance on, finding purpose in your everyday life. It's your whole life. It's not
Yes.
just a fraction of vacation time. It's what you
Right.
do and how you show up and
Exactly.
serve. I love that. Well, what has been the most challenging, as this show is really tailored to the entrepreneur, what has been the most challenging side of starting your own firm at this point?
Man, that's a bit of a loaded question, only because I think I learn something new every day. I mean, I've never been a business owner, and oddly enough, we have this conversation with colleagues all the time. Law school doesn't teach you to be a business owner; it teaches you to be a lawyer. And so when you become a business owner, I think a lot of the problems that entrepreneurs have is that they want to be what their business is. So they want to be lawyer first, then business owner. I I and Rebecca, my business partner, have realized business owner first. You are in the market of customer service. You're trying to get the business through your door. You have to wear that hat always. And then secondary, you are what it is, the service that you're selling. And so that has been a very interesting journey. I think that there's a lot of little lessons that I've learned, because everyone knows when you're about to go off to ownership, make sure you have this much money in the bank, make sure you do this. I think perspective is always, you come back and look at what you've done now. I'm almost a year in. June 1st is my first year as a business owner. And if I were to tell younger me a year ago, 2 years ago, be like, hey, you're gonna do this, I would have been like, get your loans out early. Make sure all of this is set up. Make sure you even think about marketing. I mean, I love the marketing aspect, don't get me wrong. But doing it all yourself can be a bit taxing, especially when, and I don't know if this happens to all entrepreneurs, but for me personally, I feel being an entrepreneur has tapped into almost kind of reverting you back to a kid, in that you have so many dreams. The doors are wide open for you to design your own destiny, to design what you really want to do, what matters most to you. So I constantly have ideas that are pouring out of me. We should do this and we should do that, or this is a good idea. And luckily, I'm tapped in with a business partner and best friend who is exactly the same. Like, we complement each other. We both have ideas. We're both willing to cheerlead each other on and champion those ideas because we know that we're meant for something bigger.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so curious now that you are in business with your best friend, have there been issues that have created conflict, and what have your skills as a mediator, how has that helped you in your role as a leader and as a co-owner?
You know, A lot of people probably aren't going to believe it because I'm going to add a little wrinkle to this as well. Not only am I in business with my best friend, but she and I actually live together as well.
Even
So
worse for conflict.
you're right. So we were roommates in law school as well. And, ultimately, this is something, it's probably a different conversation, but I will tell you quickly the rationale between us living together now, post everything, because I had gone through a divorce and all of that. And we were two single girls, and we were like, we really, post COVID, we were like, we really should live together because COVID was like really challenging for a lot of single people. There was a lot of isolation. You couldn't be out with anybody. And we decided, God forbid if this happens again, that we're not going to have this happen. And so we started looking and said, let's combine incomes. Let's do this. And we bought a house together, which was very unconventional. A lot our families were like, what the heck are you doing? But we thought it was a smart idea. It is investment property. We have plans in place for it. In the event when one of us gets married, what's going to happen with the property? Like all of that was already thought of. And I will tell you, and I tell you this to add this wrinkle, is that we have not had a conflict.
That's fantastic.
I will say, yes, do we have differing opinions on things? 200%. But it's never risen to the point of what I would call a conflict, so to speak, because we consistently use the tools that we are as mediators to always be able to be open to that other person's opinion. So if we disagree on whether something in the business should be like this, I'll say, okay, let me hear your thoughts on it. I'm really curious. I want to know what you think. And she's like, this is what I think. I'm like, okay, that's fair. Here's why I disagree with it. And here are like some of the things that I thought of. And she'll listen and we kind of go back and forth until we see something that we're like, okay, we can both agree on this. I think this is the best way to go forward. Or we'll say, hey, let's think about this a little bit more and then come back in like a couple weeks and rethink and see if our position has changed on any of this. And we're doing that right now. We have like a little there's like I said, Dreamer, there's other projects that are unfinished that we are currently in the process of talking it out. And that's even a conversation we had last night and trying to figure out. We said, hey, let's put a pin in this tonight. Let's talk about it tomorrow or the next day to amend certain things that we're working on.
Yeah, I love that. So you are, if I'm hearing you correctly, you are utilizing the process of mediation, it sounds like to me. But to be really clear, can you kind of like unpack that a little bit for us? Unpack the process, the formal process of mediation, and then let's tie it back into that story because I think that's very interesting.
Okay, so there's several different types of mediations, and that's kind of what our business offers. We have the mediation that everyone, when they think of mediation, sometimes they think of meditation. No, it's not meditation. However, the mediation that everyone always thinks of is divorce. If I always have to go to mediation, if I'm getting a divorce, I have to go and sit in a room, blah, blah, blah. That's the typical, most common place that people hear mediation. But there's also mediation in civil cases, which could be business divorces, contract cases, which can include insurance claims of any kind for your house, your car, anything. It could be wrongful death. It could be medical malpractice. It could be civil sex crimes, sexual batteries that are not able to be prosecuted by the state. It comes over on the civil side. So these are all different potential areas that you could go to mediation for. So if you are in court, more than likely in Florida, there is 100% chance you will go to mediation at least once. Um, and that's because the state of Florida has put in what they call case management plans as a way to keep track of cases. That part of that plan is mediation. And when you go to mediation, both parties, party A and party B, their attorneys have to agree on one mediator. So they'll usually send each other a list of all these people and say, I want this person, this person, this person. I've used these people. That person may say, yes, I agree to them, or they say, I don't like any of them. Here are the people I propose. So ultimately, you're trying to get people to decide on one mediator that they believe is going to be fair and impartial, has no dog in the fight, and they will come to the mediation process. What is I don't really do it for the attorneys, but most of the time when we start a mediation, we do what's called an opening statement. And we do it really for the people that the attorneys are representing, because more than likely, one or two people in that room have never participated in this process. They have zero idea what's going to happen. They may even think I'm a judge. Um, so I have to be very clear with them. Hey, I tell them, this is what Florida law requires me to tell of you. If you disclose anything that's crazy, I have to report it. But most of the time, it's me explaining to them, this is what's going to happen. A disagreement has brought you here. We are trying, my job is to help you communicate more effectively. Clearly, communications have fallen apart outside of this. The wonderful part is that what we do here is confidential, meaning that we can't talk about it outside of it. The people here, that's it. There is the cone of silence around us, which means you can let your hair down a bit. You're going to have an opportunity to say things that you would never be able to say in a deposition, in a courtroom, because of the rules that are in place. This is your time to basically be heard. And so we go through that. They'll tell me why I'm here. They'll say, this is what's going on. These are the big issues. Now, mind you, there may be conversations that have happened outside of the mediation beforehand with the attorneys. Like the attorneys may tell me already, hey, these people hate each other, something's going on here. So I may be aware of certain things, which may change the way I approach an original conversation. But most of the time, we're going to be all together. We go through what's called openings, or tell me why I'm here. And then we separate them into private rooms. And this is virtually. In person, they would go into two separate rooms physically. Virtually, we put them in the Zoom breakout rooms, and we tell them, this is your private room. Confidentiality still applies. I'm going to be shuffling between the rooms, but not as a messenger. Basically, my job is to bridge the gap. You guys have things on your list, and I actually posted about that today. You have basically two things that you always have to bear in mind. The non-negotiables are things that I cannot live without, and the things I can't live without, and the things I can live without. And those are the things that we're going to be talking about, because I explained to them, mediation isn't winning. I'm not a judge. I'm not here to tell you you're right, you're wrong, any of that. The whole point is, like I said at the beginning, to come out of it unhappily happy, because you have both done the ugly thing that everyone hates, compromise. I have talked to you both for you to realize that there is room for compromise for you to be able to close the chapter. That's very important in family law because it's highly emotional, but it's just as emotional in the civil law. People oftentimes don't think that. But when business partnerships fall apart, that's emotional.
Yeah.
When people are fighting with their insurance companies because they denied a roof claim or a house claim, and they were hit by three hurricanes, you know how Florida was rampant with hurricanes this past season. That's not just another transactional thing for the homeowners. This is their home. So oftentimes they're coming in crying. Same thing with personal injury, same thing with medical malpractice. These are all so rigged with emotion that this is their time. Oftentimes I come in, depending on who I start with, I'll say, all right, you heard the other side. Give me your thoughts. This is your time to basically, I'm not here to talk to you. You tell me. What do you want me to know? And yes, their attorneys may hate that sometimes because they're like, oh my God, this person's going to talk forever. But this is their time. I want them to know that they have the opportunity. I'm here to hear them. I'm here to empathize, because at the same time, I am a homeowner. I own dogs. I have friends with kids. I have had my own insurance claims. I've gone through my own divorce. So I can sit there and say, I really do understand. And this is not an easy process. The whole point is to try to see if you can give up on certain things and keep the things that matter most to you, and try to find the resolution.
That's so interesting, from the perspective of having that space, like you said earlier, to just be heard.
Yeah.
Do you feel, or do you experience or see that that helps to minimize, like, where do you see them coming from the beginning of that conversation to when you're finished? What does that look like? What does the difference look like?
Usually, the first time anyone hears what's called the openings from either side, and it kind of doesn't matter. It could be a court case, it could be an outside of court case, it could even be workplace stuff. When somebody hears the other side's position, the first reaction I get in a room is usually like, you can't believe anything that they said. That was complete crap in the other room. Like, how can it's anger. It's what we talked about first. They're coming out pure emotion. And usually I say, all right, This sounds a little cheesy, but we're going to take a little deep breath here. I just want to hear what your responses are to this. This is your opportunity to tell me what your side is. I heard what your attorney says, but is there anything that you want to fill the gaps in? And so little by little, I chip away because really what it boils down to is I have a short period of time to almost, I hate to call it speed dating, but I'm getting to know them and they need to trust me. They need to trust that I am not going to do something that's going to hurt them, but rather I'm there to push them and make them see things in a different perspective in hopes that that will make them say, all right, you're right. I may not get this, but really what's most important to me is this. Really what we're fighting about is not what actually is coming out of my mouth, but actually this is what matters most to me. And that's generally the biggest thing that I see happen throughout the mediation. Anger, maybe some yelling, maybe some crying, and then little by little they start talking more softly, they understand, they're starting to tell me maybe the real reason why they're upset, that maybe didn't come out at the beginning, or they'll start saying, all right, you're right. I can live without this, but I can't 100% live without this. And then that's when we get most impactful with our negotiations, our settlement talks, because the other side, I'm doing the same thing to the other side. I tell them, hey, I'm pushing you guys equally. I always tell them every time, if you hate me a little bit by the end of this, I've done my job right. I'm here to be the person that you beat up on because I have to try to make you see without any emotion that I'm coming in and telling you this is how this might end up. And the fact that I have done over 300, 350 trials, both criminal and civil, I know how juries operate. I know how judges operate. Nothing is a guarantee. The only thing that they can control, truly, the outcome is mediation. This is the one chance that they get to really write their own destiny and say, we're both agreeing to this, we're both unhappily happy, and we're okay. Because otherwise, you leave it in the hands of a judge that's going to be dictated by law. And you're assuming, again, that everyone's interpretation, that all judges are infallible. We know that's not true,
Yeah.
that every judge has their own opinions, but they have to follow the law. Or you're leaving it up to strangers to interpret law and say, we believe this person, not this person, you're right, you're wrong, and that's the end. There is no right or wrong in mediation. I think that's what I always try to hone in with them. Like, hey, there's no right or wrong. There is no winner here. Just you guys basically agreeing to what you want with nobody else putting their opinions in there.
So mediation is a form of empowerment, getting them
It
to
is
come to their own solution instead of
200%.
battling it out someplace else.
200%.
Yeah, yeah, that's important. Share with me a place or an outcome situation without obviously giving anyone's names, but where mediation created a positive outcome, where it created this way of this autonomy and the empowerment for them.
There's been several instances where I've kind of seen it. I had a couple of what we call first party property claims, which is a homeowner who is suing or potentially thinking about suing their insurance company for a denial, or maybe they didn't get enough money. Um, and we have people who have been hit by multiple hurricanes, and maybe they're very unhappy with the result from their insurance company. And I've had several instances where people are coming in and they are livid. They are screaming at their insurance company. They're screaming at the random adjuster that's in the room. Most of the time, if anybody really understands the behind the scenes of an insurance company, it isn't one person all the way through your claim. There are multiple people that touch the claim. And then they send somebody out to mediation that just does mediations. So they weren't your desk adjuster. They weren't out at the property. They're not a supervisor. And so I've had instances where we get into a private room and I've had homeowners have complete meltdowns and they are hysterically crying, and we're going through the process and they're like, this is my house, this is where I live in. And as we start peeling that onion, it is more about, well, I just had a death in the family and this is why I'm taking this more than probably what it is, because I'm dealing with this and medical bills. I haven't slept, or I have a new baby and I haven't been sleeping. The baby's crying, and so I start trying to empower them and say that is completely valid. If you need to bring in the baby, if you need to pause and make a phone call, check in on people that are the outside factors of it, do it. Because I want you to be able to see the pros and cons of what we're here for. Is was your what was happening? Did you have damages before? We all have to understand the process of what insurance really is for. I think I've been blessed in the fact that I did this area of law where I can break it down in more layman's terms for people, because I think people don't really understand what insurance policies are there for. They're not piggy banks. They're not always going to replace everything. It seems axiomatic because you pay hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars by the end of the year for insurance. And then you're like, what was it for? Because I filed a claim and they denied me, or I filed a claim and they dropped me. It happens, but I tried to explain this to them so that they understand a bit more of the mechanics of it. And I've had scenarios where that has empowered them so much to where they're like, thank you, because now as I shop for other insurance, any insurance or any contract, I know more now about understanding what I'm getting myself into. Endorsements are a huge thing. A lot of people don't understand endorsements in their policy. They just see that they have a cheaper premium. Cheaper isn't always better. You could be capped on water damage. So you're getting in there. I have $20,000 worth of water damage because my kitchen, I had the plumbing leak. And they're like, oh, but you're capped at five. And they're like, what do you mean? Where is that? And we have to pull up the policy. And I say, this was here. I didn't see that. I understand you didn't see that, but it doesn't mistake that it's there. And we have to be careful when you move forward in any insurance to make sure, do I have limitations on stuff? Because I don't want that. But you're missing out on discounts. I understand that. I don't want limitations on my coverage.
Yeah.
And so little tidbits that I give these people empower them as they leave the mediation, whether they've settled or not settled, to kind of move forward. Same thing in family law cases. Rebecca does a lot more of those. And they are so emotional. And oftentimes you see domestic violence creeping in the family law cases. Like that's part of what makes family law so complex. And I've seen and I've done a couple of those where you're seeing power and control in each of these separate rooms. And it is empowering to see how women and even men, because it can happen to both, kind of get their voice a bit about like, what do you want? Not because they come to you and they're like, well, tell me what I need to do. No, I can't tell you. I'm empowering you to tell me, what do you want? What does your heart tell you? What does your mind tell you? What's most important to you? Is it time with your kids? Is it having them for important vacations? Those are all things that are important to you. So it, it definitely, I've seen that empowerment happen in so many mediations across the board.
Do you find that once the expectation or the perception of what the person sees in the situation has de-escalated a little bit, or like as your role as a mediator is it to help them to understand where their expectations were and what it is that they're really looking for, and how challenging can that be when they are highly emotional? Like how long would you say it takes to kind of deregulate that and get to that place where they can hear?
It's very interesting because having sat as the attorney with a client in a mediation versus being the mediator, um, it's been such a blessing to kind of been in both sides of that, because I think a big component of it not taking so long, so to speak, is if you have a good counterpart. So, as an attorney, when I was going into mediations, I would have the come to Jesus talk with my clients before the mediation. I would sit there and tell them, these are all your weak points. Don't know if that's going to come out in mediation, but I'm going to tell you all this. So you're not surprised if you hear the mediator say, well, did you think of this? Did you think of that? We're already going in with that expectation. Here's your max, here's your low, blah, blah, blah. We go over that. So when you get to the mediation, those expectations that you're talking about may already be there because your attorney did part of that legwork. Now, if that attorney hasn't done that part of the legwork, or you have somebody that is unrepresented, you as a mediator, without giving legal advice, have to go in there and have that come to Jesus moment where you're almost telling them, hey, I'm not giving you legal advice, but we do know that Florida law says X. That's not legal advice. That's me explaining to you that this is how a judge is going to see it. This is what a jury has to go by. Um, if your roof is 30 years old and it got hit with a little wind and now you want a full roof replacement, okay, I'm going to tell you there is a provision in your insurance policy that I can show you that says wear and tear. Things don't last forever. You have a duty to maintain. Do you have stuff to show us that you've maintained stuff? Because these are things that could help us in the process of negotiation. And the wonderful part is that in mediation, we can talk about all of that because we're not in court. If you wait till you get in front of a judge or a jury, it's too late.
Too
The
late.
rules of evidence are going to preclude you from introducing evidence last minute. You may have to participate in the process of discovery, which can be months and months and months. So it's kind of the twofold process. I think oftentimes in mediation sessions, I can tell you I've spent as short as 30 minutes to an hour just kind of getting through preliminaries and then get into the business of trying to really talk about the issues. Or I've spent about 2 to 3 hours trying to just calm somebody down and trying to get them to trust me in the process. And that's okay because oftentimes, like I said, you don't really know what brought them there. Um, HOAs are a perfect example of it. I did homeowners associations for a very long time. Oftentimes, the reason that they are upset with the homeowner isn't why we filed the lawsuit. It might be something else completely. And
Mm.
so you have to really dig through and say, what are you trying to accomplish here? Let's find and create something. Let's be creative here and find a different way to get you what you want, if that's really what matters most to you.
Yeah. So, taking everything that you've said so far and what you've taught us about mediation and the process, what would you say, and going back to your story originally with you have no conflict with your business partner slash investor and roommate, what would you say if you were just talking to someone who knows nothing about conflict resolution? What are the top three skills that they need to learn or improve upon in order to avoid conflict such as you're doing?
You need to set your pride aside. I think that's number one. You need to have an open mind and truly come with an open heart because all of these things are so interconnected. Pride is often masquerades as the protection aspect. You come in with your position, chest puffed up, it's all prideful. Um, if you come in with an open mind, then you're willing to accept that other people aren't always going to think like you. And that's highly important. And if you come with an open heart, you know that at the end of the day, the person that may be across from you, you may have loved at one point. You may have love their ideas. Maybe they were your business partner. Maybe they were your best friend. I think that's highly important that you come in with all three of those things because it guides you better. It makes you able to actually be vulnerable, which a lot of people don't want to be. Attorneys are we're guilty of it. Attorneys compartmentalize everything. It takes a lot for us to open up and be vulnerable, and I think that we're not the only people that suffer from it. Once you experience some sort of trauma, whether you're about to go through a divorce, whether you're about to go through a business divorce, whether it's any type of conflict, you start boarding stuff up, your mind, your heart, you're digging your heels in and you're being prideful about your position because you know you're right and they are wrong. And what we ask you to do is kind of really open all of that up and let me see who you really are because we all know that you're not the person that is constantly a contrarian. You're not constantly wanting to be right. You accept others for who they are, you accept others for differing and diverse opinions. Um, and once you kind of let that open, they'll be in the best position for conflict resolution. I can tell you it doesn't happen all the time. So, yes, that's why cases don't settle. Maybe they aren't ready yet, and that's okay. Give them the little tools that can help them. Maybe they're going to come back in a couple months.
Excellent. Well, a couple of final questions for you as we begin to wrap up. So, one more back on, what you're almost a year into your firm now in your practice. If there was a magic wand that you could wave right now and eliminate your biggest challenge, what would it be, and how do you think that that would help you move forward?
I mean, I think it's going to sound sort of basic, but I think it would be the financial part. I don't think you're ever really ready for how much it takes to really start up and continue a business. So I think that I'm sure many entrepreneurs are going to agree with that, because with that money comes the ability to be able to hire a marketing person, hire an administrative assistant, the things that you realize you're wearing all these multiple hats. That's really the magic one I would want.
And what is left for you to unfinish in your business?
Uh, So, like I said, there is a project that Rebecca and I are working on. It is very near and dear our heart. I don't want to really reveal too much about it because it will show itself up in due time. But like I said, our big thing is bigger purpose and do good. So we are in the process of building something additional to our business. We believe that this is going to be stand still on its own. I think it's going to be a beacon for a lot of women, minority women, to be able to come together and lend their diverse voices to help people achieve resolution. That's wonderful. We want to reach out community. We want to reach out globally. We want to be able to educate the things that we're talking about that people aren't often aware of in conflict. We want to be able to teach those communities some of these things so that they don't feel so blind in this legal process, this legal area, because they come in and they're like, I'm scared and I have no idea what any of this is, the terminology, all of that. Um, so we're working on stuff. So that's my unfinished business, and it's hopefully will be something that's going to come out this year.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to continuing to follow you. I thank you very much for being here. Any final thoughts for us?
Um, Final thoughts. Wow. Apart from telling everyone that, our RT and AP Mediation and Law Group, we are a full service mediation firm that not only concentrates on law firms and cases in the legal system already, but even in your own workplace. Or if you're having conflicts with a friend, we can be there and help you guys out. You're more than welcome to check out our socials, RT and AP Mediation and Law Group on Instagram, our website, www.rtmediation.com. We're constantly posting stuff, videos, tidbits, little tips for conflict resolution are available at your fingertips. And so we're always here to help.
Well, thank you very much again for being here, Alicia, and
Thank
thank
you.
you to all of our listeners. Follow Alicia and her firm for more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.